China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it. You know, it's one of those things they don't know how quite. They're proud people. And President Xi's a proud man. I know him very well. And they don't know quite how to go about it, but they'll figure it out. They're in the process of figuring it out, but they want to make a deal.
Donald Trump says he is open to talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping after imposing an even higher tariff of 125% on China. In a dramatic shift in policy, the US president has paused higher tariffs on goods entering the US, with the exception of China, which has announced retaliatory tariffs of 84% on US goods that came into effect just over an hour ago. Mr. Trump accused Beijing of showing a lack of respect by retaliating. So these are the tariffs that took effect on Wednesday, affecting dozens of countries. However, just hours after their implementation, President Trump announced all those would be paused for 90 days and rolled back to a baseline of 10%. President Trump says he can't imagine he'd have to raise tariffs on China further, and he has no concerns of any escalations in relations beyond trade. Here's our North America correspondent, Peter Bowes.
Unthinkable at the start of the week, but Wall Street had something to celebrate at last night's closing bell. It was all smiles and cheers as the financial markets soared. Stock prices jumped with one of the biggest one-day gains in history as soon as Donald Trump revealed a 90-day pause. Share prices in Asia also rebounded strongly in early trading, recovering after a tumultuous week. The news that sparked a global sigh of relief came in a social media post from President Trump, a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff of 10%, effective immediately. That baseline stays for everyone except Mexico, Canada and China, with Beijing being slammed harder than ever with a levy of 125%, way above everyone else. The president said he'd been thinking about his new plan for a few days and had noticed people were getting a little queasy.
It was written from the heart. It was written as something that I think was very positive for the world and for us. And we don't want to hurt countries that don't need to be hurt. And they all want to negotiate. The only problem is, you know, you can only do so many at one time. It's like, we want to do it right. We want to get it right. Thanks, Alan.
Given what Mr. Trump has said in the last few days, his apparent change of heart came out of the blue. But was it always the president's plan to rattle the world's markets, and especially China, to get his way? The US Treasury Secretary seems to think it was.
This was his strategy all along, and that, you know, you might even say that he goaded China into a bad position. They responded. They have shown themselves to the world to be the bad actors. You might even say that he goaded China into a bad position. They responded. They have shown themselves to the world to be the bad actors.
Donald Trump insists he's doing what his predecessors should have done decades ago to get a better deal for America. He says China's leader will eventually come to the table.
I think President Xi is a very smart guy, and I think we'll end up making a very good deal for both. But, you know, we've been treated so badly for so many years. Again, we allowed that to happen.
For now, the White House says it's working on at least 75 requests from other countries to negotiate new trade deals.
30 years ago, when I just graduated from universities, I heard America had a wonderful strategy. They outsource the manufacturing job, service jobs. They outsource the manufacturer to Mexico and China, outsource the service job to India. There's a book called The World is Flat.
Tom Friedman, colleague at the New York Times.
And I think it's a perfect strategy. You know, that the Americans said, we just want to control the IP, we just want to technology, we just want the brand, and leave the lower-end jobs for the world. Great strategy. And second is that the American international companies made millions and millions of dollars from globalization. The top 100 companies in America. Amazing. I remember when I graduated from university, I tried to buy a beeper, the Motorola beeper. Cost me $250. My pay at that time is $10 a month as a teacher. And the cost of making that beeper is only $8 for a chip.
Right.
So, past 30 years, IBM, Cisco, Microsoft, they made tons of money. The profit they made are much more than the 4 largest banks in China put together, the China Mobile Phone, China Unicom, and whatever you name it, put together. Still, these multinational companies made more money than. So their market cap grew more than 100 times in the past 30 years. But where did the money go? This is what I'm curious, because as a business people, I always care about the balance sheet. Where the money coming, where the money go? Past 30 years, the American had 13 wars, spending $14.2 trillion. The money going there. What if they spend a part of that money on building up the infrastructure, helping the white collars and the blue collars? No matter how strategy good it is, you're supposed to spend money on your own people, right? Not everybody can pass Harvard. Like me, they're not good at education, right? We should spend money on those people who are not good at schooling. And the other money, which I'm curious about, is that when I was young, I heard America is about Ford and Boeing, those big manufacturing companies. Last 10, 20 years, I heard about is Silicon Valley and Wall Street. The money go to the Wall Street. And what happened? Year 2008. The financial crisis wiped out $19.2 trillion USA alone. They wiped out all the white collars and destroyed 34 million jobs globally. So what if the money is not Wall Street? What if the money spent on the Middle East, Middle West of the United States, developing the industry there? That could be changed a lot. So it's not the other countries steal jobs from you guys. It is your strategy.
Okay,
but you do not distribute the money and things in a proper way. So it's not the other countries steal jobs from you guys. It is your strategy.
Okay,
but you do not distribute the money and things in a proper way.
The president has made it very clear he's open to a deal with China.
At the White House, Trump was said to be, quote, optimistic a deal with China can be struck, but on those fresh Chinese tariffs.
The president made it very clear when the United States is punched, he will punch back harder, and he hopes to make a deal that benefits the American worker and our companies that have been ripped off for far too long.
Trump himself with this post on social media. We're doing really well on our tariff policy. Very exciting for America and the world. U.S. stocks ended the week on an up note, though still lower than before Trump's global tariffs were announced April 2nd.
Going. All of the things the president just said are true. The president, as I said from the podium just a few days ago when I was up here, would be gracious if China intends to make a deal with the United States. If China continues to retaliate, it's not good for China. If China continues to retaliate, it's not good for China. The United States of America is the strongest, best economy in the world, as evidenced by the more than 75 countries who have called the administration immediately to cut good deals. So the president wants to do what's right for the American people. He wants to see fair trade practices around the globe, and that's his intention and his goal.
So is he waiting for China to make the first move here?
I'm not going to comment on communications that are happening or may not be happening, or either way. We'll leave it to our national security team to get these discussions underway. And as always, in the effort of transparency, we will provide updates moving forward. But the president has made it very clear he's open to a deal with China.
Why is he optimistic that China's going to make a deal or wants to make a deal if they're not talking? Where's that optimism come
He's
from?
optimistic.
要打多久？我讲我们不要做决定。过去是有道路门，以后是有20号月或者美国的将来的什么总统，由他们去决定。就是说，他们要打多久就打多久。一次打到。
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know. They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions. because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents, they wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also. But somebody had to do it. They had to stop because it was not sustainable.
Beijing striking back today with a 125% tariff on all U.S. goods sold in China. This comes after President Trump placed a 145% tariff on Chinese imports. And now we're learning of a possible reprieve on certain products. ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang has the latest from Washington.
Hey, Ike, as the U.S.-China trade war heats up, the Trump administration is exempting smartphones, laptops, and other electronics from its reciprocal tariffs. That's according to a bulletin posted by U.S. Customs Border Protection late Friday night. Now, those exemptions also include solar cells, flat panel TV displays, flash drives, computer processors, memory chips, and semiconductor-based storage devices. So this is some relief for big tech companies like Apple, which relies on China to assemble the iPhone. UBS had estimated that the cost of the new iPhone 16 Pro Max could jump by $950 under the 145% tariffs that Trump has imposed on all goods from China. And right now, there appears to be no end in sight for the U.S.-China trade war. China has imposed 125% tariffs on American goods, and those steep tariffs go into effect today. The White House has said that there currently are no negotiations happening between the U.S. and China. Now, this trade war is painful for both countries. Last year, the U.S. imported $440 billion worth of goods from China, everything from toys, clothes to electronics. Those reciprocal tariffs, those are going to hurt American farmers. China buys more soybeans from the U.S. than any other country. All of this is hurting small businesses as well, not just consumers that could face those higher prices. I visited a toy store in Virginia, and the owner told me that virtually everything she sells in her store is either made in China or made with parts from China. Ike?
Selena Wang, thank you.